I'm Tim.
Hi, Tim. I'm Andrew.
This is the Board Game Rundown, and today... Oh, hi.
Hello. Leave me hanging there.
I will, yeah, I will. Today we're going to review Gnome Hollow from the Op. This is designed by Emin Anderson, and this is like one of the hotter games of Gen Con.
I didn't go to Gen Con this year, but I heard that this was the hype a little bit. Tell me about that.
Yeah. There was big lines. They did a really nice job at the Op booth sort of presenting it. They had a big old balloon sculpture out on the hall for it. There was even a gnome parade where the gnomes were made out of balloons, so no, I was not in it.
Sounds offensive.
And there was, and then Ammon and his wife were there like demoing and teaching the game to people. So it was overall like a really cool and positive experience.
Scheme.
Yeah, really well.
Cool.
They did a good job. They did a really good job putting that out. There was even a plushie. If you bought it at Gen Con with like deluxe bits, there was like a little gnome plushie and stuff you can get. So what we have here is the Op sent us a copy of the game and also a set of the deluxe components. So if some of those signposts and scoring markers seem a little chonkier, you know what I mean, and the different little mushrooms, that's why. Yeah. That's why. So in Gnome Hollow, basically, this is a very straightforward game. You're going to have a market of tiles to choose from, and on your turn, you're going to take 2 tiles, one at a time from the market, and you're going to play them down adjacent to another tile. You need to have it, for it to be a legal play, you will need the mushroom path to continue. So you can't put a mushroom path on like a dead end.
Pretty basic, right?
Yeah,
like the roads have to connect. You can't have anything not making sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Very basic and pretty easy to place. Lots of options. Even if it's not optimal, you can always kind of place a tile. Then you're going to resolve out of the ring that you may have made. So if you made a ring out of a set of tiles, you would count up the number of tiles involved in that ring. So if this one was like 1, 2, 3, because that's a wild 4, just for example, keep it short and sweet. Yep. You would take one of your little score markers on your player board and you'd move it down to the 4 spot, right? So if I did that there, so now that fills in that spot. The larger the rings you can make, there are bonuses associated with where you place your marker, and you can choose any of those.
And our time was spent playing the I guess you could say the first few games side, but if you turn this over, by the way, magnetic board.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Awesome. And that just comes standard, right?
Yes.
Magnetic
Standard.
board, very cool. On the other side, it encourages you to seek out different shapes for different bonus types. On this side, if you get any sort of circle that is made of 5 tiles, you get to choose your bonus. But over here, you get some very
they want you to have
unique
shapes.
bonuses. Yeah, they want unique shapes, and there's 2 different ways to play essentially. There's a complex and there's a simple. I wouldn't say starter, but there's a simple way to play.
Yeah, it's a little more straightforward, right?
Yeah.
You're not as worried about making shapes on this side as much as you're just trying to make as many of the big rings as you can.
Yeah.
And then after that, you've got 2 gnomes, and you're going to place one of them somewhere to do an action, and that is optional. There's 4 different things you could do. You could reserve a path. So if you've got a path where it's not completed yet, you put a gnome on there, and that stops anybody from going there and placing a tile there without permission.
More importantly, scoring that one, because whoever completes the circle gets the ability to
so if
score.
you've got a gnome on a path, when it is closed in, you're going to get all the mushrooms that populate on there.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is if there is a signpost, you can put your gnome over there, visit the signpost, and you're going to get what's on the signpost. Once this flower market over here gets going, you can visit the flower market, and you're going to gain one that you don't have yet, and you're going to put it up here at the top because that's going to give you points. And then the last thing you can do is sell at the market. So as you're gathering all these mushrooms, you can go to the market, which is the pinwheel market right here, and then it's going to block off. So if you're the first person to sell 5 purple mushrooms, for example, you're going to block that spot off, and you're going to get those points. And that's just these little tokens here to mark how many points you got for it. Yeah. And that's it. You're going to basically play until someone is taken all of their ring scoring markers and assigned them down below, or if you get to
Fill up your flower
till
pot.
the bag is empty. And if the bag empties, there's some tiles that are put aside at the beginning of the game based on player count. Basically, those tiles go back in. Everybody gets you finish out that round, and then when it gets to the first player, everybody gets 1 more gnome action, and then you're going to do scoring. And scoring is really straightforward. You're going to score these points, the farthest one down, based on the number of flowers you have, right? So I would have got 18 for this because I was all the way to here. And if I had cleared out my board like that, I would get 25 points because that's the farthest without a scoring marker. And that's basically scoring. And then any of the other points you gathered from selling mushrooms. That's the game.
It feels a little Carcassonne-y to me.
Sure.
It feels a little, yeah.
Well, let's get into your thoughts.
Yeah.
So tell us your thoughts.
So it's this game, darn it. Okay. So yeah, it was the hype. I think it's good for me that I didn't know that this game was kind of the hype beforehand, because I just watched the rules, sat down, and I played it, and I got to judge it away from the hype. I do not really like the everybody is grabbing tiles from a market and building, kind of it's essentially like the rule set for Carcassonne. You're trying to complete tracks and you're gaining resources when you complete those tracks. This feels very reminiscent of that, and I'm not a huge fan of that in particular. Now, what they did really well was it didn't feel as simple as Carcassonne. Like, for example, in Carcassonne, you kind of draw one tile, right? And you're kind of just screwed with that tile. I loved having a selection of 8 tiles that I could pick from. That felt really good. Having a whole bunch of different bonuses that I could get, giving me an objective to build a larger mushroom loop. That felt really good too. I guess it didn't really feel it felt like I was playing my own game. When you place these gnomes, people really kind of just stay away from your circle. If you claim a path that isn't really built yet with your gnome, people are just kind of doing their own things. So I feel like this was playing kind of my own little solitaire, revised, better Carcassonne. It still felt good.
I will say that I had a different experience because I had Bob over here messing with my paths. Yes. I was set up for a very nice ring, and Bob came in and completely messed it up.
Okay.
By placing a gnome and a tile, which then branched. It potentially made it very difficult for me to find a tile that I could play until I could get a wild. The problem was I was set up to build a big enough ring to get one of those wilds, but I couldn't do it because he had blocked me.
Sure.
And so I think it could just depend on, mileage may vary based on the style of players, who you're sitting next to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, because yes, there were times where this game felt very solitaire. So I mean, I 100% get that. But there was 3 turns where I was very frustrated,
converging with
because
Bob
I
a little
couldn't.
bit.
I had to find other things to try to do to still be productive while not completely abandon that area. Because when I was able to finally get a wild tile, I was able to place it and finally get some points for that thing.
Yeah.
But it was like, so. Not to say you're wrong, I just had a different experience based on what happened to me on our little side of the board over here. Please continue.
And that's not to say that this is a bad experience. It's just not an experience that, like, with a board game group like the Board Game Rundown guys, this was a pleasant experience. All of the iconography made sense. This nice symbol guide and little reference key was good. I know we have the deluxe parts, but I even feel without the deluxe parts, this magnet board has won my heart.
That's amazing.
Easily.
It's so good.
It's just such a mwah, you know. This is it's just a nice touch. A little bendy, but that's fine. Whatever. That's what happens to cardboard, and that's just what happens sometimes. And plus, it's gnomes, so maybe this is more of a friendly game. If I were to give this a score, I feel like I'd have to give it a, like, I'm playing with the boys score. And then, like,
well, you'll give it a score, but when we get to it,
we'll get there. But then I feel like I'd also have to give it like a, who am I really, like, am I showing this to people who have never played board games before?
Right.
Because those scores would be night and day.
Sure.
Completely different scores. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think this is Gateway Plus, right? I think that you could be at a big box store. You could see this game. I think the box art will draw people in. The friendly cutesy theme. It's very family friendly and accessible. There's cutesy stories in there about all the gnomes and their different personalities in the rule book, and all that stuff is there if you want it. Sometimes I read that stuff. Sometimes I don't. But Yeah, I think you make a valid point when it's like, oh, I'm playing a game with like guys that also play Lacerdas and heavy war games. And then there's I'm playing a game with people that don't always play a ton of games, right? Or even are maybe really new to the hobby, and this is like they've only ever played like mass market stuff. For me, I guess it's not a matter of would I score differently, it's just would I recommend it differently.
Yeah.
To who or what. I mean, I think I'm big on games that I can get played a lot, right? This is a game I could get played a lot. It's very accessible.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I could play this with my kids. My wife would play this. My in-laws would play this.
That's what I'm saying is like you listed people that are in a specific realm of people.
But if we were to roll into like...
No offense to Tim's family.
No, it's fine. It's a very specific group of people. But if we were rolling into like a game night where it's like, oh, we're all going over to Mike's house and everybody's bringing a bag of games and we've all played 100+ different games, I don't know that I'm bringing Gnome Hollow.
I agree. Yes.
So
unless we have to play Blood on the Clock Tower, then I would actually play Gnome Hollow. Yes.
Right, but I mean, like Thanksgiving, this could go in the bag. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm going to Thanksgiving.
I agree. And if I were at a board game store, and I saw somebody there, like, and they said, "Hey, can you help me decide between these two games?" And it were like Carcassonne and 3 expansions, or Gnome Hollow. I'd probably say Gnome Hollow.
Yeah.
But if I were with you guys. Or if we were like with Mike, who didn't get a chance to play with us today, I don't know if I'd recommend this game first over something that they might enjoy.
If he likes heavier games.
If you like heavier games.
I will say, though, that if you are with that heavier group, go with this side.
Yes.
Go with that side. Use the trading market and stuff to give you some more, variability and stuff. So they do give you some options to add complexity to the game.
And by the way, I will say it again. Like Gnome Hollow, you set the standard for what player mats should be.
Oh my gosh.
You didn't do the cutouts. That's fine, but holy crap, the magnetized board.
You don't need dual layer because it's magnets.
Yeah, and I almost like that better. So well done on the quality. Like I can feel a breeze there. You are like trying to.
Those are good magnets,
I almost want you to like keep going until you can. There we go.
There we go. We finally got one to go.
Yeah.
But I had to like really
big arms. Yeah. Very big arms.
Like Popeye over here.
Yeah.
Mostly just because I'm bald. But anyways, so let's rate this. But I will also just point out again, the component's really good. Kudos to the op for just putting out a very nice looking game. Really good art, good colors.
Easy to learn.
The rule book is very straightforward. They did a really good job with the rule book. Lots of photos, you know what I mean, with like demonstrations which explain like scoring and stuff, just in case there were any questions. Because Bob had only played it like digitally a few times, and he's like, I don't know how the scoring works. And we're like, it's literally just this, and it's so easy. But it's
streamlined.
Yeah, it's very streamlined. It's very straightforward. This is very accessible.
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna rate this game. Andrew, how do we rate games at the Board Game Rundown?
Well, typically we take all of our scores and divide it by 4, but if we're going to change the math equation, should we call them over here? Bob and Dan are over in the back. We're doing a little bit of remodeling here, so it's just 2 of us today.
No, we just average our scores together.
We don't want their scores, so now we're going to divide by 2. Did you hear that, Dan? We don't want your score. All right, so, Tim, what is your score for Gnome Hollow?
This is an 8. This is I can recommend this to a lot of people. Again, like any game though, I'm not going to recommend one game across the board to everybody, or maybe 1 or 2 games where it'd be like everybody will love this game.
Yeah.
I do think this definitely skews, because it skews lighter. This definitely is going to be more for my friends and my gamers that are newer to the hobby, just maybe even not even just interested in playing anything, super heavy, which is totally fine. You can have a huge board game collection and love board games and not want to play anything, over a 2.5.
That doesn't mean it needs to detract from points,
right?
For sure.
So it's an 8 for me because again, you can get a lot out of it. There you can zhuzh it up and make it a little more complex if you want.
Zhuzh it up.
And there's some nice components here. Sure. How about you, Andrew? What do you think?
Okay, so I'm going to give it 2 scores, then we're going to average my score, and then we're going to average your score.
Oh, wow. All right.
So for people who have board game experience, I think this game is a 6.5 for me. Like, I don't see it being played more than once just to say like, oh, did you hear about Gnome Hollow? Yeah, I totally played it. That was 2024, right? Yeah, it was the hype at Gen Con. But then for people who haven't really kind of like the Tim's family, like I would say this is more of a 7.5.
Sure.
Because it's something that I feel like they would, it's like a Thanksgiving game.
Right.
Like you said.
Yeah.
So I'm going to average my 6.5 and my 7.5 together to give it a 7. Yeah. And then we're going to merge with Tim's 8. And that gives us a 7.5. And I think that's fair.
I really appreciate you keeping the math easy.
Yeah. I was doing it all in my head as you were talking.
No, that's good. I think a 7.5 is a very fair score and really representative of like what this is and what it brings to the table. And honestly, if you hadn't heard about Gnome Hollow, you know, I don't know how you haven't. Most people have heard of it, especially if you're at Gen Con and knew, you know, you at least heard the buzz.
If you're in board game culture, was it on the hotness on BGG for a while? Okay.
Yeah. You know, but just don't go in expecting Dune Imperium, because you're not going to get that, right?
Yeah.
So, but for what it is, it's really nice, and it's a really well-made game. And I love seeing companies kind of like the Op, for example, who are known for like Tapple and different versions of Monopoly, and then they had the belle of the ball, like at Gen Con, because they're really trying to make and put out more of these games. So it's kind of interesting to see a company stay true to sort of what their core branding is, but then also kind of add this stuff and take these swings out here and sign these kind of games and then get rewarded for it because it did well.
Yeah.
You know, I like that because that means they'll do more of that.
And that brings up something, just as we wrap up here, something that I did enjoy in a tile placement game was Dwarf Romantic.
Oh, yeah.
And I could see how this is, you said you have or haven't? Okay, this is kind of similar. If you did enjoy Dwarf Romantic, I kept bringing back Carcassonne, but that's kind of a, you know, that's like talking way too much in the past. If you did enjoy Dwarf Romantic, I would say that this is Dwarf Romantic adjacent.
Oh, sure.
You know, so if I know that was kind of the hype a year ago, or like 12 or 14 months ago.
Yeah.
So there is a sense of enjoyability, especially if you like these like
cutesy
unique
tile,
cutesy tile placement games.
Sure.
So so
there's room in the hobby.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been Gnome Hollow. If you found this video useful, please consider liking, subscribing, do all those things. We should really start doing that at the top of the show, but until then...
We know you've watched.
We know you've watched. We follow you.
Yes.
Anyways, for the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
I'm Andrew.
Thanks for watching.
Take care.
And you can say the title's only 3 words.